All right, see if we can get this underway this morning. Get it underway. Get people in here. It's been a heck of a weekend. So, how you doing? Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. It is time for the feedback loop. Um, it's been an interesting weekend around here. Released some material. Got some new people. I got some new people to welcome into the fold. And we got some new resources with regard to new projects floating around. It's fun. Tedrell's checking in this morning. She has like some of you've been doing this as well. She has been looking around for ways to help out with the COVID-19 um, lift, if you will, that is currently going on. There's a number of volunteer sites, people looking for assistance as they work on COVID-19 focused projects, and it's I bring it up mainly because there's a issue with some of these sites, and it is that when you build a profile, you have to make that profile public. On any of these sites where you are applying or you're putting it out there that you're interested in doing some volunteer work, you have to remember to turn your profile public. It's private by default, and a lot of times when we go to these sites and they're new to us, I mean, we don't you don't make a living on the volunteer site, so it's quite likely that if you visited one of these sites, it was for the first time. You go in there, you sign up, you do your thing, and then you wait, see if anybody contacts you. And if you don't set your profile to public, it's like you never were there. And I've heard from a couple of people this weekend that they went to one of these sites, they signed up, they were like, "Hey, I was all excited about participating," and then I mentioned what we discovered with Tedrell, and they go, "Oh yeah, yeah, I did that same thing too. I didn't set my profile public." So I mention it because when it's one of those things when you sign up to volunteer, you want to get started right then, and this is not uncommon. It's one of the reasons why I've made all the curriculum for New Pragmatic just open, because the moment that you want to do the moment you're wanting to get started, I want you to be able to just like, hey, let's get started. I don't want you to worry about a transaction, or I don't want there to be a hurdle between you and getting started. I just want you to be able to go. And this idea is to capitalize on the enthusiasm of the participant. The lower the barrier is, if there's a hurdle to clear, a lot of people are going to drop off right at that moment, particularly when they're volunteering. Like, I'm volunteering my time. Don't make it hard on me. So, just wanted to mention, maybe that's a design problem you can help with on some of these sites. Also, this weekend, another site was passed along, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can take a look at this one. Designed to combat COVID-19. This is a new site, and it was passed along, and I'm not completely sure where the projects are here. I know there is a get involved button, and it opens up like an Airtable, and this is you signing up to participate. This came across from somebody that was trying to think of where they were located at. It's nice. It's funny. Airtable has basically the same sort of design aesthetic as Google Forms. But if we go in here and look at our mission, not me, us, isn't that the Bernie thing? So You can get assistance. So taking another look. Okay, so this is Rachel, and Rachel is trying to figure out what Rachel's. Yeah, okay. So she's Nordstrom and Home Depot, and so yeah, this is fine. This is fine. Get a little bit of idea of who you'd be networking with here. Um, this is one of the two sites that I Rachel's Rachel's clearly trying to help out the cause. For my purposes, I'm living over here on helpwithcovid.com. Helpwithcovid.com. The projects are here. You can see them, which I think is pretty important. And like you can filter. I'm going to filter by design. I'm going to sort by latest. And now there's 111 projects. There were like 83 last week when we took a look. And these are all projects that are recent, and you can also filter by project type. I haven't even begun to do that part. If I said reduce spread, what does that reduce it by? Okay, so now I'm down to 43. So if you want to focus in on a particular area of the to help in, you can do that as well. But as you can see here, by filtering on latest, you can see that there were 4 projects. Well, there were a lot of projects released over the weekend, to be honest with you. Only a couple are 2 days away, and almost all of these have limited numbers of volunteers. So I think that this is definitely if you're trying to volunteer, I respect the other site, but it really feels more like I'm collecting people who want to volunteer on a project, rather than, and this is going both directions. You can sign up, but then you can actually see the projects, and I think that's why I would yes, the other site has big pictures, but this site actually has a lot of substance to it. So I keep it here, and I'm not sure why. It's almost like these have been highlighted. Also, the other thing that I really like about this is everything's remote, and I'm guessing the other sites the same way. But I can see right away that these things are all remote. You can all get involved today, and I think that's the biggest thing that we have going for us in this moment, is that your opportunity to collaborate and work on something is just a spark away. This is a very interesting time in that remote has stepped to the front. I've been banging the drum on remote for a long time. I never knew a pandemic was going to be the tipping point, but here we are. I called remote. I didn't call it via a pandemic though. So, and then the question will always be, well, Chris, will it stick? It doesn't have to stick. Things change, but the one thing I do know is that there's now a public safety reason for remote that wasn't there before. So there might be a shift back to the offices, but it's not going to be as strict as it used to be. It used to be very, very much you've got to work in the office, and there's a few people on the fringe that do the remote thing. Now, it's going to be much more flexibility in that. So, with regard to this, be sure to take a look at it today. Everybody, unless you've got a full-time gig, and if you're wanting to grow in design, I think one of the easiest ways to grow in design is to jump into a project. And I've long said that after you wrap up with the program, and that is, I've learned the design process, I've built a project, I've done my portfolio. There's no reason for you to do multiple projects with me. I think the moment that you have learned the design process and you've done a project, then it's time to step out and go collaborate with some other people and begin to grow as a designer and grow in a different direction. I mean, you can grow so far with me, but at some point you've already worked with me, you need to go work with somebody else. These are the ways that you can do that. So Tejel's doing it right now, and we're going to take a look at what she's working on. Also, Rebecca's in here this morning as well. Rebecca, we're going to circle back to you after we take a look at what Tejel's working on. I'm going to close up Rachel here. We'll keep it with help with COVID. We'll keep it with help with COVID. So speaking of COVID, Tejel's working on this Get Tested COVID-19 site, and currently the way this sets up is you basically come in and it says, give me your 5-digit code. And right now I've got a COVID testing site in California and a COVID testing site in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. And if I had to guess, there's somebody in Pennsylvania that is sourcing a lot of sites for this website. So I don't know if the person who built the site is in Pennsylvania and there's one person that gave them a location in California, but they don't have a lot of sites yet. But these things are getting started. If I go to find testing centers, it takes me to this basic same site, and I get the same listings. So let's go and see what Tejel has got here in her, now that we've kind of just seen what she's working on. So she's redesigning that page. So that's the current page. She sent out a survey and got enough responses. Okay, so the link is here. Let's go take a look at Tejel's survey. Based on the results, I think two things can add value: ability to share, adding a map. So I'm gonna also look at your Evernote that you sent. Oh no, Evernote is experiencing problems. Well, that happens, and that's one of the flaws of online life. Let's see here. Have you searched for a community center around you? I have not, but I'm curious what the next question here would be. Got to remember to title these sections. If you were to search for a community center, what information would be helpful to you? I want to know days of operation, if an appointment's required. Well, yeah, I mean, I basically need to know that. Type of site, I would like to know. Yeah. Well, I don't know if they would have a website. I mean, if they had a website, sure, but I wouldn't guess that most of these would. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Which of the following features are important to you? Ability to share with a loved one, sure. Ability to get directions, go. Illinois. Yeah, just submit it. Okay. So I didn't sign up to be one of her contact people, mainly because she knows me. She knows how to get in touch with me. So that's that. Let's take a look at the, because only because the Evernote's down. Let's take a look at the Figma file that she's come up with. You saw Rebecca blink in there for a second, like boop. What do you got for us, Tejel? Okay. So I'm just gonna mute this down on. All right. So way cleaner. Although this may be you may just be going with no color, but let's see here. Yeah. So right now I want to compare it to what they currently have. Oh, there it is. Okay, so right now it's very hard to see. Like everything's just top down. You're reading it. And like there's space available, so it's not like it's This orientation is actually pretty good for, like, if we inspect element and we go narrow, this orientation is not terrible. I'm also curious how they're building it. Can I tell? It's got a manifest, so it's built with something. Um, yeah, I can't tell right away what they're using, but it's clearly built with that manifest JSON tells me that it's built with some sort of builder. I see chunk JS. Anyway, either way, this card design is really good for mobile, but it also doesn't take advantage. Like, it's got a check mark, and then there's all this dead space, and it does the same thing up here. It's got this icon, and then there's all this dead space. So it takes advantage. It's good for mobile, but then it's not great for. It's good, but not great for mobile. So I want to come back over to where you're at with it, and I like the fact that I've got the it's like a table basically. Um, I do think that I would be careful about going too gray with these, because this information I want to be able to really quickly see what's going on. So I might not gray these down as far. Um, it's pretty clear what's important here though, where it's at. Um, get directions, see more. You know, I'm not sure that if well, no. I think your concept here of not available is good, because if I don't see it there, I begin to wonder where it is, and if this says not available, I think that's you're you're basically just saying, hey, I don't have it, and I know that you don't have it. I would try to get these to line up though. If we, I want these. This is just a perspective. Like, if this is in a grid, this is going to line up vertically. So move that drive through and walk up over. Give these icons a little bit more room to breathe. Like, that column's you're probably going to design this, and there's going to be a gutter. Put these, float left, float right on inside of the shape so that everything aligns. Not required, required. See more. There's a lot to like here. There's a lot to like here. I like the drop down so I can target a range. Okay, let's come over here and see what else we've got. So the map version's not bad. It I wonder if when I say get directions, does that take me to this view? It seems like that this view is its own thing. If I was going to go this direction, I think I would the most important things are basically what you already have grouped here. Although I could argue that it's just these two bits of information. So if I was really going to come over here and do this one, I'd probably go the route of, I'm just gonna bust this all up real fast. Open sand semi-build, really? That was weird. Figma's done a couple of weird font things the last couple of days. Not sure. Not sure what. I'm not sure what they're doing. Um, I would go bold here, semi-bold there. Um, go across, and then allow all this other information to kind of reside below. Okay, and what's happening here is this returns to being scannable in a way that this really isn't. So if we compare the two, no, not sure. We've got some sort of content box here. There we go. I'm just gonna get rid of it. And I realize I busted up something, but for me, this is a lot more scannable because we've got that very clear grouping of information. This is not a clear grouping for me. It's kind of, it's this information, and then the address is kind of across from it, but then it's kind of jumping down. This information wants to be paired with the location name. I would do that, and then I would make this 2 columns underneath it. So if you could do that, that would help. That would help elevate this. I, you know, I like a lot about. I like a lot about this. I'm wondering what the see more is when I click it. Is it basically here's how to get to it? I don't know. But I think the map view adds a lot. It shows me right away where these things are located at. It doesn't, without getting into the turn by turn direction thing. I think most people, if they are looking for these sites near them, they eventually come to the realization of, oh, I'm here, and then I can get over there or there. You don't have to give them turn by turn directions. Most people that are looking for a community test center are not new to that area, so that I think that when you're talking about that get directions thing, get directions might take you into that realm. So you'll need some sort of maybe this is the view that becomes get directions, and it's where you're at and where they're going. It's interesting. I would go look at how Uber handles that kind of direction wayfinding, or Google Maps, to help push this forward, so that you're understanding. A lot of us, we've used those services before. We know what they are, but we haven't really studied them. And I can't tell you the last time that I gave people turn by turn. Actually, I can tell you the last time I gave people turn by turn directions. But I would really encourage you to I'd encourage you to take a look at that wayfinding as well. But I would clean up this information architecture just a bit. I would darken these up so it's easier to see the columns. I would make sure to align the columns. And yeah, I think this is a really, really good start. I think it's far better. I would also, to this end, think about what is the presentation like if this is mobile for both. Okay, because I do think that without having and to do that, in case you're watching along and you're wondering, Chris, how I don't know, how do I squish this page? It's not about squishing the page. You need to make a new frame. Come over here to phone, and grab the X, or grab a Pixel 2. They do need to add some new Google sizes, but I'm just going to go with the iPhone X. It's the 375, and begin porting those assets over. You know, what's my nav look like? Um, you know, what's search like? These things. Got to give that a thought. Because there are going to be a lot of people that are gonna access this on their phone, and you know, think think about mobile like this, particularly in this instance. If you're low income, you probably have a phone. You might not have a computer. So all of and the people we need to help the most in these times of crisis are low income wage earners that are basically they are taking these gigs that work in the public. They're taking every grocery gig they can get. They're trying to keep food on the table, and they're the most at risk. So, I need you thinking mobile. All right, because the people that need it the most, they don't have a desktop. They have a mobile device. And I think if you can do that, you're doing huge service to them. And those are the people that are going to end up needing it most. And additionally, like if you're well, you get the idea. I think if you're a first responder, you probably have other means of getting tested, like through the police department or fire department, things like that. But if you're this is like if we think about who this is really for, this is for the person that's working at Target or Costco or Jewel or the bus driver, um, the essential services that are not provided by the city. Okay, city employees, they've got a little different way of means of getting tested. This is for the person who's out there hustling, unloading trucks, stocking shelves, keeping our food chain going. Okay, so that said, I'm going to leave it here. Let's come over here to Rebecca. Rebecca's got some questions. I'm going to need to review, reviewed. Good morning. Revisiting portfolio. Yes, you are. A few things I'd like to change, add feedback on. If you want to reference the old screens, so there. Look at you. They're in the archive. I love having an archive. I love using Figma and this tiered timing thing. I imported the Twitter icon and wanted to add it after GitHub icon in the footer. For some reason, the SVG constraints are acting funny. So I need to fix the constraints and add it to the code. Okay, so Twitter icon is on the homepage to the right. Oh, I see. Okay. So let's take a look at your others. Okay, so you have the Twitter icon and you're trying to style it up like your others. Part of the problem there, to be honest with you, is if you look at these other icons, hey, Pinterest. These other icons are really, they don't have any areas where the line work is really tight together. Medium actually is even simplified line work. LinkedIn, this one's stretched, by the way. When we look at Twitter, the problem with Twitter is basically the mouth of the bird. The mouth of the bird just gets squished because it's these two curved areas. It works fine on the wing, but where the mouth is, it's just difficult. I do see what you're talking about here, though. And this honestly is where you have to get in here and you have to adjust the frame. Well, let's see here. Maybe I can adjust the frame here. Oh, I see. This honestly is where I typically just I delete it, I bring it back out, and move it off on its own, so that I'm not inside of this weirdness. Now there isn't a weird croppy thing that you get into. Well, you didn't get that same weird croppy thing here. Um, but with this, it's just a group, and now you need to, you need to name it. You say Twitter, and you're good. But it was the bounding box of this, and if I, this is all moving together. But the moment I move this group, yeah, it'll do the same thing. It's like this icon finder is it's a clipping mask that's over the top. It acts all weird. Um, I've had to I've had to deal with that a number of times, and the moment that you remove it, it sorts itself out. So that's a problem that you always import from somewhere else, and that's the only way I know to get rid of it is just like grab the icon that's in, because it's always grouped. Delete that old bounding box, repaste it back down. Okay. Let's take a look at the other questions that she has. Yeah, so we got the constraints. Redoing the hero section portfolio to add my illustration. Need help exporting it at the right size and getting it onto the page. Okay, so the question here is, where is that illustration? Because it, you've got the illustration and it's here, and this is an image. I don't necessarily want to, I don't necessarily. Oh, Tegel. Time out, Rebecca. Tegel, which oh no, it's okay. It's okay. And remember, this is recorded, so if it glitched a little bit, that's okay, because the recording will be back up in just a second. My advice to you would be to first of all determine what's the mobile solution that best fits. My belief is that it's going to be some iteration of the second one will probably be the one that best fits mobile. I like the table, but you've got to sort out what happens to the table when it goes vertical, because those things are going to want to go left, instead of going left to right, they're going to go up and down. If you can come up with a mobile version of that table that collapses down and goes vertical, I think it's fine, and you can do that. That would be basically you doing it with just Flexbox, and Flexbox would go left to right, and then you would stack it. It would go rows to columns, okay, and I think that doing that, like really focusing on mobile. I think you can do version 1, but you have to kind of be thinking, okay, here's how this would be implemented. The other version is possible, but I'm not sure what happens to the map. The map feels very much like what happens when I click through to see. Like, I want that map on the. I'm looking at the location and where is it, like I said, see more, and it takes me to a page and it's got the map and it shows me the pin on the map, and like that's kind of what I see for it. But I definitely would suggest basically taking a look at version 1, and see more is an individual version 2 with the map. Okay, so I'm seeing it very much like you've got a initial page with the list view, and then you've got a map view once you hit the individual. That's at least the way I see it. Okay, Rebecca, back over here to you. I want you to export this, like, let's this is profile pic illustration. That's great. It's an image. Wherever that image is, I don't want you to export it from Figma. I just want to take it directly into the repo. Okay, and I think it's fine. I think it's fine to size up images in Figma, and you're kind of placing it, you're kind of getting a sense for it. But when I'm going to use this image in the file, I just want to use it straight from whatever source it's coming from. Figma is not, unless it's an illustration where I've drawn it in Figma and exported it as like an SVG. Figma's not the place to export an image from. And I know I've seen it used that way before. That's not ideal because that produces it's a vector tool. If you have an image and it's importing from somewhere, just use where that image is coming from. Okay, so if you've got this Profile Pic Plus, I'm not sure what type of file it is. I can't really see what's been imported. I can see that it's an image, but I would use that original image in the portfolio. Okay. Um, so need help exporting at the right size. I think you've got it at the right size. If you don't have it at the right size, and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I get this to shrink down in size? That's where like a tiny PNG or a tiny JPEG site comes in to help you optimize it. Okay. Um, Change and consolidate the about page. Thoughts. I was thinking about writing about my transition into UX in a blog post and linking to it instead of trying to write about it on my page. Let's take a look at the about page and let's see what you've got. About. Okay. Bit about me. Input name Rebecca. Me in front of Bill of Rights. My perspective on the about page and what I've shared often with all of you is that I really believe that you have an opportunity to write your about page as a how I got to here through your experiences. A lot of you, most of you, are not spring chickens in that you're not people that are fresh out of high school or even fresh out of college. You have some life experiences under your belt. You've lived different places. You've worked in different industries. You've done enough things that you're shaped as a professional by those things. I would like to see my path to now sort of, and if you want to call it a blog post, call it a blog post. That's fine. It's a case study of you, and it makes reference to a lot of different things. Some of those things will be from other. You'll link to case studies. Some of those things will be you'll link to people on LinkedIn. And here's former people that I've worked with. I don't mind the here I am as a baby sort of thing. But I think that it is. I think that this is who I am as a person, not who I am as a professional. And what I'm most interested in, if I'm hiring you, is who are you as a professional? And I'm not getting that here. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean that this is wrong. All of these things are, frankly, all of these things are really just opinions. I mean, if this is what you want to present on your About You page, that's fine. I think that I would rather, see keep the fun part here at the top, and then here's a bit about me. And if you want it to, again, how you organize this information is not. Let's see here. Write blog post on below experiences and link to them instead. My early education, my journey in the product design. I think if you want it to link to them from a blog post, that's fine. I think if you want to keep them here, that's fine. I want these things listed at the top. My perspectives on management, my perspectives on my journey into product design, my early design education, like these things as separate blog posts I think are important. Um, if you're trying not to overwhelm somebody with a lot of backstory, okay? Because I do understand, like, there is this, oh my God, there's so much content on the page. I get it. I get it. But I also I also think that those are some pretty interesting stories. So I would rather get those get highlighted treatment here at the top, and honestly, I think you could take and turn everything, even the, here's, if you want to just look at kid pics of me, like, here's some fun kid pics of me, like, doing smash cake and stuff. I think if you want to put that out there, that's fine. Make it a blog post as well. Okay, so how you package this, and again, if you're watching this and you're like, well, Chris, you told me to do it differently. I'm working with everybody, we're trying to find your way of doing this. I'm not trying to put everybody in the same box. I don't think that's a good idea. Um, but I do think that everybody's got a unique story to tell here. And my goal is to make sure you're telling it. If you're telling it, then it becomes a question of, okay, do you want it all on the about page? Do you want it on several blog pages, and then your about page is like a list of links with some photos? Like, how we do that is up to you, and your page will be unique for it. But we need, I've also had people do it like, here's my travel map. I remember Meredith Main's, her entire about page was just like the places that shaped her, because she was like Peace Corps, and she had been all over the freaking world, and those places shaped her. In many ways, I'm the same way. Okay, so that's my 2 cents on that. And now I'm going to spin over here to Luigi for just a second. He just submitted an updated resume, and take a peek here. Updated resume. He's also got a ATS resume, experience draft, graphic design portfolio. So we've got some work to look on here. We're going to start here with Luigi's resume, and I'm meeting with him in just a few minutes. So let's see here. This is coming along. This is definitely coming along. We've, yeah, okay. So tools, UX design, research. It's interesting. Now you've split. Now you've split UX, because I mean, when I think of UX, so much of UX is research. Um, Interesting. Okay. Yeah, and like, part of this, Luigi, when I'm looking at it, and we'll talk about this in a bit, like wireframing and prototyping, those are that gray area. Are they UX or are they interface? Are they interface or are they UX? And that's one of the things we kind of hop around in. It exists as a gray area. It's very difficult to, whew, boy. Yeah, I struggle with that. I like. Um, I would almost uh, design skills. Like, yeah, I'm just strong. I think you've got this right now. Like, yep, those are tools. Got it, nailed it. It's like, how do you want to group these? Because part of me could say tools, skills, um, but we'll talk about that. We'll discuss that. As far as the other information, you know, the select clients is jumping out to me. It's like that's up, and I'm not sure why. I want to come through, like, this is all much cleaner here at the top. I like that a lot. There's still a fair amount of detail work in here. but it's far closer to where you're trying to go. Um, and I do like the fact that it's just designer, not graphic designer, not UX designer. It's designer, and you're letting the work now speak for what it is. And it's, junior art director, it's freelancer, it's design intern. You know, it's letting the roles jump out. So I think this is smart. I think this is smart, and we're gonna jump into more of this here in a couple of minutes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today's edition of the Feedback Loop. Great work there from Tedjo, Luigi, Rebecca, and we're going to do this all again tomorrow. So I look forward to chatting with all of you again soon. Chris Courtney for New Pragmatic. Take care.